Few would expect that one of comedy's greatest legends, Richard Pryor, would emerge from the unlikely setting of a brothel in Peoria, Illinois. Born on the 1st of December 1940, Pryor's early life was far from ordinary. Raised in a brothel run by his grandmother, the setting was a far cry from the glitz and glamour of the stages he would later dominate. Yet it was this very environment that shaped Pryor, exposing him to a world of colorful characters and harsh realities. His comedic genius was not born out of privilege or comfort, but rather the grit and resilience he developed in the face of adversity. The brothel, the characters he encountered, the stories he heard, all became fodder for his humor, a raw and unfiltered look at life through the eyes of a man who had seen its darker corners. In these unlikeliest of beginnings, a star was being forged. Pryor's life took a turn when he found himself serving in the U.S. Army. This wasn't your typical military career, folks. No, Pryor spent the majority of his time in an army prison. The reason? Well, let's just say he wasn't exactly a poster boy for military discipline. His experiences in the army, especially his time in prison, shaped Pryor's perspective on life. It was a harsh reality check that was far removed from the brothel upbringing in Peoria. He saw a different side of humanity, one that was often grim and unflinching. It was during this time that Pryor began to weave these experiences into his comedic material, finding humor in the darkest corners of his life. Imagine that, using comedy as a shield, a way to cope with the harshest realities. But it wasn't just about coping, it was also about connecting. Pryor's experiences resonated with many, and his ability to spin tragedy into comedy made him relatable and, ultimately, beloved. After a tumultuous stint in the army, Pryor was ready for a change. And oh boy, what a change it was going to be. In 1963, Pryor took a leap of faith and moved to the City of Dreams, New York City. Bright lights, big dreams, and a whole lot of hustle. That's what awaited Richard Pryor in the Big Apple. A city that never sleeps was the perfect backdrop for a man whose mind was always teeming with ideas, jokes, and stories. The comedy scene in New York was a jungle, teeming with talent, competition, and the relentless pursuit of laughter. But Pryor didn't shy away. He jumped right in, performing regularly in clubs, honing his craft, refining his jokes, and slowly but surely, making a name for himself. And who was his North Star in this vast comedic galaxy? None other than Bill Cosby. Cosby's style, his timing, his effortless charm, they all served as inspirations for Pryor. But while Cosby was the template, Pryor was no mere imitator. He started as a middle-brow comic, just like Cosby, but soon he began to incorporate his own flavor into his act. Profanity, controversial material, taboo topics, nothing was off-limits for Pryor. He pushed boundaries, he challenged norms, he made people uncomfortable, and they loved him for it. Laughter, after all, is often born out of discomfort, out of the unexpected, out of the shocking, and Pryor was the master of all three. He was not just a comedian, he was a provocateur and a rebel with a cause. His cause? To make people laugh, yes, but also to make them think, to make them question, to make them see the world through his unique lens. Pryor was carving out a niche for himself, one controversial joke at a time. He was not just another face in the crowd. He was Richard Pryor, the man who dared to be different, the man who dared to be himself, and New York City was just the beginning. The best was yet to come. With a unique voice and an unapologetic style, Pryor began to make waves in the comedy scene. He was unafraid to push boundaries and challenge conventions. Pryor's unique brand of humor was raw, real, and often controversial, but it was also undeniably funny. In the early 70s, Pryor's career took a significant leap forward when he signed with Laugh Records, and later with Stax Records. This was a pivotal moment in Pryor's journey to stardom. His audacious style, coupled with his profound observations of life and society, resonated with audiences, turning him into a household name. One of Pryor's most notable successes came with his album, That Ends Crazy. The album was a critical and commercial triumph, earning Pryor a Grammy Award. His fearless and unflinching commentary on race and society hit a nerve, sparking conversations and debates and cementing his place in the annals of comedy history. But Pryor's talent wasn't just limited to stand-up. He was also a gifted writer. He co-wrote the film Blazing Saddles, a classic comedy that showcased Pryor's sharp wit and keen sense of humor. Although he didn't play the lead role due to insurance issues, his comedic genius was clearly evident in the film's hilarious and irreverent script. And then, in 1975, Pryor made history. He became the first black person to host Saturday Night Live, breaking barriers and paving the way for future colored comedians. His hosting stint was a defining moment in his career and a testament to his immense talent and influence. Pryor was no longer just a comedian. He was a force to be reckoned with. He had risen from the brothels of Peoria to the pinnacle of comedy stardom, leaving his mark on the world of entertainment. And he was just getting started. Richard Pryor's impact on comedy is undeniable. His journey was marked by both uproarious laughter and profound social commentary. At the heart of his comedy was his uncanny ability to reflect the truths of human nature, no matter how uncomfortable. His immense talent and fearless approach to comedy earned him numerous accolades. Pryor was honored with a Primetime Emmy Award, not 1 or 2 but 5 Grammy Awards for his comedy albums, and he was the first to receive the Kennedy Center Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. This prestigious award recognized his immense contribution to the American comedic tradition, a tradition he helped to shape and define. But the influence of Richard Pryor extends far beyond his awards and accolades. His raw, honest, and often controversial style of comedy broke boundaries and pushed the limits of what was considered acceptable in stand-up. His comedy was a mirror held up to society, reflecting its flaws, its prejudices, and its absurdities. This fearless approach to comedy inspired a new generation of comedians to follow in his footsteps, comedians who continue to push the boundaries of what is possible in stand-up. Even today, decades after his last performance, the echoes of Richard Pryor's laughter still resonate. His influence can be seen in the work of countless comedians who have followed in his footsteps, and his legacy continues to shape the world of comedy. His body of work remains a testament to his genius, a collection of performances that still inspire laughter, provoke thought, and challenge conventions. Pryor's legacy continues to inspire and influence, long after his departure from the stage. His name is synonymous with comedy, and his influence can be felt in every corner of the comedic world. He was a man who made us laugh, made us think, and made us confront the uncomfortable truths of our society. He was and will always be a legend. Despite his larger-than-life persona, Pryor was not immune to life's harsh realities. The man who made millions laugh, who dared to push boundaries, faced a battle that even his wit couldn't combat. In the late 1980s, Pryor was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a debilitating disease that affects the central nervous system. The diagnosis didn't silence Pryor, though. He continued to perform, to create despite the physical challenges. His spirit, like his humor, remained unbroken. And that's what made him a true legend. His courage in the face of adversity, his refusal to let his illness define him, showed us the real strength of Richard Pryor. On December 10, 2005, the world said goodbye to this comedy giant. On that morning, 9 days after his 65th birthday, Pryor had his third heart attack while at home in Los Angeles. After his wife's failed attempts to resuscitate him, he was taken to a local West Side hospital where he was pronounced dead at 7:58 a.m. His widow Jennifer was quoted as saying, "At the end, there was a smile on his face." He was cremated, and his ashes were given to his family. His ashes were scattered in the bay at Hana, Hawaii by his widow in 2019. Forensic pathologist Michael Hunter believes Pryor's fatal heart attack was caused by coronary artery disease that was at least partially brought about by years of tobacco smoking. But it was not an end. Instead, it marked the beginning of a legacy that would live on. A legacy of laughter, of boundary-pushing comedy, of a man who dared to speak his truth no matter how uncomfortable it made others. Richard Pryor was more than his illness, more than his comedy. He was a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope for those battling their own struggles. His life was a testament to the power of the human spirit, to the ability to rise above the hardships life throws at us. He showed us that laughter can be the best medicine, that humor can help us cope with even the darkest of times. His life, his career, his legacy are all reminders of the profound impact one person can have on the world. Pryor didn't just make us laugh, he made us think, he challenged us, he inspired us. He left a mark on the world of comedy that will never be erased. And with that, we conclude this entry into the Pantheon. Thank you for watching.